Thank you, everybody, for joining. As Laura and others have mentioned, this is our fifth Fulfilled. I learned a few minutes ago that the introduction it's called The Voice of God, which is pretty intimidating. Our first Fulfilled in Chicago, there were a lot fewer people there. We were ready to introduce our first person, and we're like, who's going to introduce them? So I guess I had to be the voice of God, but we've upgraded dramatically. And just huge thanks to everybody coming in. I know there's people here that live in Vegas, people like Ben and I who traveled from Southern California, which is a very, very short trip. But we've got people from the UK. If you want some crazy stories on flying in, find Ali over at ShipBob and Dan at Pet Lab. They've got some crazy stories for their flight in. People from Australia, people from Latvia, and all over. So huge thank you guys for coming here. It's just awesome to see. So again, very, very happy to have Ben Diamond here, the CEO of True Classic. We're going to jump right into some questions, but Ben was feeling pretty generous, Vegas style, and wanted to give out some prizes. So Ben, go for it.
Let's do that. So first of all, great to see everyone here today. Can I get a quick show of hand? How many of you have heard about True Classic before? All right. Wow, that's a decent 90% plus of the audience. Please keep your hand up if you have never made a purchase. Only half of you or so. Keep it up. We're going to do a quick trivia stuff. So, my fun self wanted to bring a t-shirt cannon. We're in Vegas. I wanted to kind of like shoot it down, but legal from ShipBob is taking it too seriously, and for liability reasons, we're going to do this Vegas style. So this is what we're going to do. They won't be invited next year, so we'll bring the gun. All right. We'll fix it next time. I have a few poker chips. Each one of those poker chips has $100 to the store with a unique promo code. So for those of you who have had your hand up and haven't made a purchase yet, I have 3 quick questions. Whoever gets the closest number, Amanda is going to find you and hand it to you. So the first one is, how many countries does True Classic ship products to? Just shout it out. Keep going. Do you want t-shirt? How many? 190 someone? Who said that? 190, Amanda, first winner over there. Just over 190. The next one is, how many customers have we sold to over our lifetime? 1 billion, wow. 5 million, about 5, a little bit over? Anybody around 6?
A trillion.
6.5, all right, let's give it over there, 6.5. I think we're over actually, but it's close. And then last question, I'm wearing it right now. I'm actually wearing everything True Classic. That's our t-shirts, that's our denim, that's even our shoes. We haven't actually launched yet. I'm even wearing our underwear, but I spare you from that. How many t-shirts have we sold over our lifetime? Less than 120, over 20. 45, who is that? That's very close. All right, I got to double this person down. So thank you for participating, but that's our story in a nutshell. Really, we started back in 2019, fairly young company. Our purpose is to empower people to look good and feel good, and we really started as a t-shirt brand, solving a fit problem and selling a great quality t-shirt that fits great for a good price. We started very narrow, only on a website, only in the United States, primarily playing the Meta Google advertising game. And we scaled very rapidly, north of $100 million in revenue in 2 short years, profitably. And ever since then, scaled across products, countries, and markets. And excited to be partnering with ShipBob and talk about all things fulfillment and just how fast we move.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. And I mean, you're showcasing really the answer probably to my first question, but and also in typical Ben fashion, I thought I was good because I had my True Classic tee on, but you've got head to toe, even the backpack you had.
Even the backpack,
was True
right.
Classic, so plenty to buy from. You mentioned Meta. You were formerly at Meta before you joined the team over at True Classic, a very strong founder-led brand. That you came in as really the advisor to the CEO and took on several roles and then came in as the CEO and have been in that role for quite a while now and have really helped them scale, not just from a revenue perspective, but channels and NGOs as well. So to start, just curious, What did that look like coming in, again, with a strong founding crew to then take over, the reins of the company?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when I was at Meta, just for some context, if you think about Facebook, if you think about Google, these companies are in the business of businesses. So if you think about Meta, there is over 200 million companies on those platforms, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. There's over 3.5 billion customers, like all of us, scrolling. And in that group, about 10 million actually advertise, and out of those, it's a pretty long tail. So what I used to do is I used to be in a group called the Disruptors Group, and we used to look in that massive business segment and look at about just under 100 companies that we believed had the highest potential, highest ability to grow. We called those the disruptors. And what I had an opportunity to do is to be front row seat into a lot of the fastest growing companies on the back of social media. And so when I was doing that, Ryan, who is the main founder, one of three at True Classic, reached out and wanted some help to grow the brand. And it was really early days. Shopify was just, I want to say, under like $1 million lifetime, super, super scrappy. And we were like just starting to kind of kick the tires and figure out like what would we do from a growth strategy standpoint? How would we scale the brand? Back in 2019, to be just transparent, starting a t-shirt brand did not feel like the hottest idea to go all in on. But I felt like there was something bigger than that. And what I loved is that how consumer-centric we were actually trying to be. It wasn't about us. It wasn't even about the t-shirt. It was about people and making them look good and feel good in its truest form, making them feel confident, feeling like men were completely underserved. Everybody was just doing kind of like the bare minimum, and we felt like there was just an opportunity for a brand to do much better, much more thoughtful job. And when I was there, we were starting to like do better ads, tell better stories. I don't know if for those of you who've raised your hand, you probably have seen a lot of our early days like videos and funny stories on social media. And what we were able to do was just mind-blowing. So as I mentioned, I saw all the businesses, but I've never seen a True Classic. And most of the businesses that grew on the back of social media had some sort of an X factor, call it unbelievable product innovation or a patent, creating a new industry. An X factor like a celebrity endorsement or a celebrity-backed brand. Unreasonable amount of VC, capital that was raised, and a mindset of growth at all costs. And True Classic, there were no tricks. It was just like customer obsession, great product, great marketing. And I felt really, really compelled by that, especially putting the people first. And after about, I want to say we did it for almost 2 years, and I just saw the unbelievable traction we were able to get. I was like, okay, this is really cool. Let's do this full time. So I joined. And then just naturally speaking, I've just been leaning into areas that I felt I could add value. Simply put, we're really an egoless kind of company. We care about getting it right, not being right. And the mantra is to make things better, faster, cheaper, no matter where we look. And it just made sense for me to go into that role. But we still work extremely collaboratively. Ryan and I are in the office together every single day. And it feels more like a collaboration rather than like roles and titles. But I'm more like operational in the business, running the day-to-day.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of alignment, too, just with how we approach it at ShipBob here. Again, better, faster, cheaper. It's kind of the constant theme throughout this whole thing. And again, it's less who's right, but let's get it right on behalf of our customers. For us, it's everybody in this room. For you guys, it's the consumers who are also hopefully all in this room as well. You mentioned,
just
of course,
got 3 more of them.
Yes, 3 more of them, exactly. On your path to 100 million, right?
That's right. 100 million people by 2034. We're pretty ambitious.
I like that. So you mentioned it's been so fascinating to see the evolution of these brands, because like you mentioned, it was Meta, which was primarily Facebook and Instagram marketing, on top of Shopify, and that was the whole playbook. And a lot of that was selling in the US, and then now these brands are going global and going omni. What did that look like for you guys? As you're thinking of like, what did that, and again, going from t-shirts, and so from there's like the SKU expansion, there's the geo expansion, there's the omni expansion. What came first, and how did you guys decide to prioritize that across everything else?
Yeah, so great question. We have, in my mind, at least what I've observed, 4 main growth levers: product, countries, distribution channels, and M&A. We deprioritized the 4th one because we were really just focused on what can we do best with True Classic. And the first one was about product, because what we realized is that the benefit was way greater than just what we could produce in t-shirt. We have identified a massive opportunity and a massive problem to solve around fit, feel, and price in clothing in general. And when we looked at the TAM, t-shirts only represented just about 5%. So we started thinking about and talking to our customers, what else would they want from us? And that became really first. And so I mentioned some of the other categories we've leaned into: activewear, denim, underwear, socks, etc. And we've built pretty sizable 8-figure businesses within True Classic outside of the t-shirts. Then that was the first one. The next one was about global expansion. I know Passport was just sharing their perspective on stage. We work with Globally. They just acquired Passport, so I guess we work with Passport too. And we figured that if we are doing what we're doing in the United States, and we saw all this traffic coming to the site from other countries, why not make ourselves available elsewhere? And we did that super scrappily. We just found a partner, in this case Globally, and said, why don't we make ourselves available and see what's going on? Because I see all this traffic coming to the site. And again, a TAM conversation. You look at the global apparel market, and you realize that the market outside of the United States is 4 times as large as the one in the United States. So just making yourself available might prove to be pretty beneficial. We turned it on, and we had another 8-figure business outside of the United States without doing much other than just make ourselves available. And that became really exciting and ever growing ever since. And then the channel side, we were only a website. And in clothing specifically, over 60, 70, sometimes 80% of clothing, depends on what research you consume, is being purchased in a physical location. People want to touch and feel, figure out their size, figure out how it's going to look on them. And we were only available on our website. So it was very important for us to figure out how can we essentially be wherever the consumer may shop. And so we did an expansion around that. We're working with the largest retailers, Costco, Target, and others. We have our own retail locations nationwide. We also launch on other digital surfaces that we believe our customers love shopping on. So we have a very big growing business with Amazon, which we're super proud of, and we have other online channels like TikTok as an example. And it's interesting because it's evolving so fast. I'll tell you a quick story about this guy named Keith, who came on a TikTok live recently because we realized that in this world right now, especially with AI, and I'm all in on AI just to be clear, we've really entered this authenticity crisis, and you don't know what to believe. You go online, everything you read in the comments, AI, fake, not real. So we were like, what can we do digitally to be with the customers in a truer form? And we really leaned into lives, and we turned a part of the office into a live studio where we go online and digitally communicate with our people. And this guy, Keith, would just keep showing up. And then in a more recent engagement, we started building this relationship with him where literally the guy went and got a tattoo on his leg of True Classic from a live TikTok, guys. This is a real story. And I was so blown away. I brought him in the next day to the office. We did this whole session. We actually have some content around that. And then we just brought him in to speak to all our customers. But the general idea is not about us. It's about them. It's about you. It's about serving. And we really don't care where we make ourselves available and with what. We just try to understand what do those people want from us from a product standpoint, where do they like to shop, where are they at locally, and how can we serve? That's really the mantra, and those have been the expansion pillars.
So there's a couple things you mentioned that I want to dig into, including how you guys are approaching AI. But you mentioned you have because you guys are doing hundreds of millions in GMV, approaching $1 billion GMV or revenue. You mentioned these 8-figure business lines. And so as you think of whether it's a new geography, and as a CEO, you're obviously thinking about things holistically. But again, whether it's... What's that?
I try.
You try to. I think you do a good job. So there's again, different geographies, there's different channels, maybe there's different product lines, again, t-shirts, shoes. Do you guys evaluate them as kind of standalone businesses to see how they're performing as themselves and then roll that up into one? Or how do you guys approach, again, as you guys are rolling out across, again, all these different levers?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And we're still figuring this out. But those the way I like to frame the business is country first, then channel within a country, then product within channels. And if you think about the country level, and that's the playbook to your point, if you think about the US, it's it's the most mature business we have. And it started t-shirts on a website in the United States. And now we think about, okay, where else from a channel standpoint. So we started building all the channels I just mentioned. And then what else from a product standpoint, we started expanding. So in the US, we have the most robust omni-channel business. But then what we started doing is thinking about, okay, what's the next big market? So Canada is really big for us as well. Now you started the business, t-shirts on a website in Canada. You start thinking, what else can I offer there? You start expanding the assortment. Where else can I be? You start interacting with other retailers. You have an Amazon in Canada. We have Costco roadshows in Canada, and so on and so forth. And so the lens we look through is very much like how can we keep scaling every one of those essentially like product lines across channels and across countries. But the method, as far as we can control it, is trying to walk before we sprint, if you will, with proving a market opportunity direct to consumer with our core products and then expanding from there. And then from a business standpoint, we really have 3 key objectives of the company: acquire as many customers as possible. I mentioned we're on a path to 100 million of them by 2034. We have a long road to go, 6-7% in. We are trying to think about how do we maximize their lifetime value with us, cumulative gross profit per customer, across channels, across everything we do. And we want to operate efficiently and effectively. And so those are the lenses I look through. And then we are really ruthless with not feeling too strongly about anything we do. We would shut down a channel if a channel doesn't make sense. We would shut down a product line if the product line is not making sense either. And it's not just profit, but it's also, are customers happy with it? When they buy this product, do they leave us good reviews? Do they come back and buy more? Or is it potentially creating a poor customer experience? Same goes to channels, same goes to everything we do. And always in the spirit, first and foremost, of serving our customers and listening to them very, very deeply.
So I know you ship to almost 200 countries. You fulfill in region in quite a few. Are there any countries, you mentioned killing certain channels that are not performing well. Are there any countries that you've entered into? Maybe you guys had high conviction and very quickly you saw, okay, this is not resonating, we need to pull back, or we need to strongly pivot? How's that been?
Yeah, I mean, initially what we did was we basically I mentioned to you my background, so as you can imagine, I'm big on advertising. In early days when we did international, we basically created this worldwide campaigns. We're going to advertise everywhere. Because if you think about those auctions, there's opportunity in every market. There's more audiences, there's more impressions. You can find an advantage. And what we saw, to your point, is this was our testing ground. And then there were many, many countries where the unit economics would not make sense. And maybe we would find opportunities to acquire cheap traffic. It would be a lower CPM or cost per 1,000 impressions. But that traffic will come to the site will not convert. Mm-hmm. Sometimes for a variety of reasons, by the way. Early days, we were maybe not as localized. Maybe we didn't offer all the payment methods. Maybe we didn't offer the right, basically economic model, because it was super expensive for us to ship everything from a single distribution center in North America to all parts of the world. There were also product-related issues. You're trying to take on Asia, but Asians require a different fit, and you need to communicate to them in a different way, and we were not prepared as a company. So our US offering may or may not resonate in certain parts of the world and may require different, basically, effort to localize the offering in any given country. So what we would do is we would just, the saying is wherever performance goes, budget flows, energy flows, resources flow, and that was basically the approach. We tiered all those markets. We killed a lot of them where we don't advertise anymore, and we may come back to them. But they're just not right now a priority. That doesn't mean that we don't have business there. There are orders dropping worldwide, but that is not a focus. And then we just are very much ruthlessly leaning into the areas where we can find success. And if we can scale it profitably, we would lean in a lot more aggressively and really invest our marketing resources to scale the brand.
So I want to get into AI next, but before we get to that, every business has its unique complexities and also, various degrees of competition. In the apparel space, you guys have competition, not just in the US, but around the world. Something that I'm fascinated by is, to get into the weeds, the material that the products are made with. And the zeitgeist kind of changes over time. And so we have some amazing brands in the audience that really focus on the athleisure space, that focus on, 100% cotton, that focus on bamboo. When you guys are thinking of the customers, and what is the bet over a long period of time? Of course, you can pivot. Just curious, how do you guys think of, again, how that zeitgeist is changing? Maybe it's just focused on the US, because that's your largest market. And then how you guys are pivoting, how you guys are manufacturing and creating these products.
Yeah, those are great points. And I would say back to how we think about the world, we obsess over our customers. We look at other competitors, quote unquote, but we're not necessarily obsessing about what other people are doing. We just are very intently listening to what people want from us. And so to answer your question, there is definitely a shift that we are observing towards more organic cottons. There's also other shifts, like people want heavier weight. They want different types of fits. They want different types of curves, hems, like hem, curved or straight. So all we do is we bring our customers in and we ask them all those questions and we give them different samples to try. Heavier weight, lighter weight, straight hem, curved hem, crew neck, V-neck, polo, what do you like? Pima, cotton versus a blend. Now every one of those fabrics have different attributes to them, but ultimately what customers care about, in my mind, are the benefits. They like the way bamboo feels because it's super soft and comforting. But they also like for it not to shrink too much, or they may not like for it to wrinkle too much. So how do you find the right custom blend to give them a shirt that fits them well, doesn't shrink, doesn't wrinkle, looks great? I mean, there's just trade-offs. Cost, they care a lot about price. Our consumers are very price sensitive these days with costs ever rising. So do they want to pay the premium for certain fabrications, or are they really shopping for those benefits? So what we are trying to do is unpack the labels and not really be so laser focused on this fabric or that blend, and really think about the benefits, think about what they ultimately value, what they're actually after, and we make it all about them. So much so, and I'll give the perfect example. If you notice, like nothing I wear has our logo on it. We're probably one of the few, if not the only, big, large-scale apparel brand that doesn't put their logo everywhere. And that's an intentional choice. It's not a commercially driven one. It's when you talk to customers, they tell you that they don't want to wear logos. So what do? We listen. Even though it might not be in our best commercial interest to not put everybody kind of like wildly advertising True Classic. I mentioned how many, think about 45 million plus shirts going around. Nobody knows what those shirts are made, who made those shirts. It's a pretty big advertising opportunity, right? So that's kind of like the lens we go through, and we're evolving. So heavyweight, Pima cotton, the different fabrications, active wear, they want moisture wicking, especially if you're in more humid parts of the country or the world, just different benefits.
You were fulfilling a lot out of Mexico before. There was the decree, a lot of obviously large tariff and de minimis changes starting in 2024 and then in 2025. We could talk for hours on this topic alone, but what was one of the wildest or most unexpected curveballs that you guys had to absorb and work your way through last year?
I mean, it's been smooth sailing for 7 years straight.
Of course.
Nothing. No curveballs whatsoever. Honestly, and all of you ops people, I actually feel like you all deserve like a really like big shout out, because like doing operations, supply chain over the past 2 years is one of the most difficult things I've ever seen. And I'm pretty decent at problem solving. I'll just give you like a quick overview of us. We did everything out of Mexico, and the biggest reason for that was it was near shore, but we were able to benefit from Section 321. I assume most, if not all of you, are very familiar with it. And that basically allowed us to import goods into the United States under the de minimis and not pay tariffs. And that was a huge consumer benefit, because one of the other pillars we stand behind is to keep the brand as affordable as possible and really pass that consumer surplus. So we're trying to shop every way possible to keep our costs low. So all our inventory was pretty much in Mexico, and then the first big curveball is that out of nowhere, we were not able to fulfill any orders. And that was pretty nuts, because we didn't have a plan B. We didn't really know what to do about it. And so we had to like rush other alternatives. We luckily had an Amazon business. We had our own retail locations. We started looking into 3PLs. We partnered with ShipBob, and we basically created like warehouses in the United States in like the speed of light, rerouted inbound POs from Long Beach instead of making it to Tijuana, Mexico, making it to our US warehouses, trying to stay afloat, trying to change some stuff in our merchandising strategies, trying to operationalize the other international nodes that we had around the world, and essentially move everything in real time. The next big thing was the tariffs, and not just IEEPA, but just in general, we did not have tariffs baked into our margin. So now everything became more expensive. You bring all that in, you have cash implications. You have to pay all these duties and tariffs out of the gate. There was no capital solutions for that. We are basically a bootstrap company. We've had a small round, but there was no preparation for that. So now how do you float all of that and finding sources of capital with all the inventory and shifting demand? So I would say it's been pretty much 18 months straight of operational war to keep this business going. And we're really very much on the tail end of this now. And thank you to ShipBob and the crew of just helping us move 3PLs around the world, figure out how to set everything up, get back to the customers, keep our promises, deliver on time, the right products in full, and do that under just so many different moves. It's really unprecedented times.
Yes, and yeah, so impressive to see how you guys quickly navigated all of that. I know utilizing our FTV facility out in Los Angeles. To the AI side, again, from your time at Meta and before, very focused on data, performance marketing, and using large-scale data to make a lot of decisions to drive, again, immense revenue for your other customers, but also True Classic, which brought you over there. From a lot of people say that they're all in on AI. I know that you guys are really leveraging that to drive immense value across so many parts of the business. So if you can just share, a couple examples, how are you guys using that? Maybe from the marketing side, maybe on the supply chain side. What's top of mind for you, where you're actually seeing the value and it's not just window dressing?
I would literally just be as dramatic as saying the only thing you should be talking about focusing on is AI. Nothing else matters. I know it sounds very dramatic. I promise I did not drink from the Kool-Aid. There's just literally nothing else to talk about. And I know earlier we talked about how the future agentic world of ShipBob is how we operationalize all of that. So at True Classic, we're an AI native brand. You cannot be on Team True Classic unless you drink the AI Kool-Aid to its fullest degree. You have agents in all your flows. You work inside Claude or Codex or you name it. That's just the only way we do it, in the spirit of making things better, faster, cheaper. I'll give you a few examples, but it's literally everywhere. So we have AI agents inside our Slack. We have AI agents inside everything we do, just operationalizing every part of the business. Advertising, I mentioned to you, is a really big deal for us. We now have 100% of our ad spend running through AI agents with a partner named Triple Whale to make decisions about how much advertising to spend in any given country, in any given campaign, any given product. That's a huge deal because we're spending so many tens of millions of dollars. You mentioned supply chain. We have AI agents surfacing which vendors should we be working with for which product and what countries of origin should we source from. Operations, we have AI sitting on top of all our operational data through MCPs and figuring out where all our inventory is at, what is going on with our orders, crunching all the numbers, figuring out node strategy, how many locations should we have, where should we place them, frankly, which partners should we work with, how can we negotiate the best possible rates, what are some good benchmarks for how much things should cost versus how much they do cost. It's legitimately endless. I start my day, continue my day, go to sleep, just firing prompts and loops about every part of this organization. And so is every single person on the team, and it's frankly one of the most exciting times because there is just so much to do, and there's just so much opportunity in making things better, faster, cheaper, and it's already here. It's not a futuristic statement. It's the present. It's not where AI is going. It's where AI is already at. So that's the call to action for all of us. And what I've seen is that people start with a little bit of fear because it's very uncomfortable. What does it mean for me and my job and life? And once they start unpacking it and really leaning in, they can't see any other way. And then they essentially convert into this AI-first operator. And then what else can I do? And they start going down this path of maybe they start ChatGPTing casually, and now they're rocking Cloud Code with GitHub, and they have repos, and they're like, dude, look what I just did. And they start engaging one another, and you see this osmosis of how you become an AI native. And the good news is that it's fairly, I don't want to call it simple, but it's not hard to learn. You just have to do it. So if there was any takeaway from anything, just do AI. Really, really all day, every day. and make your life better. By the way, also personally, not just for business. It does everything.
Yeah, and I know Drew's going to dive deeper into what we're launching from an MCP perspective and launching with Claude and everything from an AI perspective, much more into the weeds tomorrow. And I was joking with my wife a while ago. I was like, I spent 7 hard years to like start sleeping much better, and then 7 days with Replit and Claude, it just wiped all that out the window. And again, it's extremely helpful from a business perspective, but also a personal side too. So to close it out, if you want to give an example of how you're using it in your personal life as well.
I'll give you an interesting one. So my pool heater broke, and I'm very busy, so I didn't really have time to go and do a whole lot of research. And I'm also type A, so I don't just go and buy whatever is the first thing. But I don't know much about pool heaters because rodents got in there. So I was like, look, I can be a decent husband and do the thing, or kind of delay that and upset my wife and my kids and fill in the blank. And so my normal self would literally like now need to have this whole project and figure out how to find the right heater to buy and what makes sense so rodents can get in and so on. I literally prompted that in, I'm not kidding you, 30 seconds, where I live, what's the issue. It did everything. It found out what is the right heater to buy. It found out what are all the local retailers. It figured out what are the reviews, who should I work with, what's the right amount to pay, helped me negotiate the whole thing, kept track on scheduling who is coming in. I'm talking about something that would take me hours to manage properly on a personal life, down to minutes, and the whole thing is done, and I did not compromise quality. I did not overpay, I did not delay that, and it's just one thing. Think about how many curveballs life throws at you in your personal life as well. So that's just like one easy part for life-related stuff. Also, I would say for medical-related stuff, not to say like Claude should be your medical doctor, but it's pretty remarkable how good it is if you give it good data, not stories, but data points, your blood work, your symptoms, and it's pretty amazing how like every personal life event that you can think about, AI can help you power through that. And just basic stuff, automating calendars, doing itineraries for traveling places, booking stuff for you. And it just gets better. You can start setting up agents to call on your behalf, take the information, plug it into your Claude, and just have all the information flowing back to you. So it's pretty nuts.
100%. Well, congrats to our winners of the True Classic casino tokens. And Ben, this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.